A very good morning and welcome to NTV Today. My name is Ken Mijungu. Sean Caravelis is also with me in studio. He'll be telling you about sports, but we have a lot lined up for you. It's a busy day while the Blue Economy Conference has ended. The delegates are still in town, and today and tomorrow and Saturday possibly, we expect them to take time off and visit our tourist attractions, go to our park right here in Nairobi, the only national park in the capital city with the big three or the big four. Well, that's something to follow up on, but on this day we have a lot of stories we're following up for you. First off, we are live in Parliament with Ken Mijungu shortly. He'll be talking to us about what's happening there in the morning. We expect the IEBC Chief Executive Officer, former Chief Executive Officer, that is Ezra Chiloba, to appear before Parliament's Accounts Committee to talk about impropriety issues at the IEBC. He's the only one who hasn't appeared there since that debacle began. And Bernardo Juang is in Kisii. He'll be talking about the gender bill plus any other thing happening in that county. Plus, we have the Senator for Migori County who will be joining us in studio shortly. Martin Mwaura is in Kirinyaga for us this morning. He is live with CS Mwangi Kiunjuri, who is inspecting development projects in that region. We expect to go to Martin Mwaura in a short while. Also, Nudin Hirmoge is in Wajir for us, also talking about things that bedevil that region and any other issue that we might want to know this morning. In Nakuru is Bridget Ngana, who will be live for us shortly also to talk about the gender bill and the fact that the National Assembly was not able to raise the numbers to even put the question. And in Safari Park, the members of the Health Committee of the National Assembly and the Senate are there meeting over health matters. We'll find out what that's about shortly. And as I mentioned, at 10 o'clock, IBC CEO Ezra Chiloba will be appearing before Park. And News Just In will also be telling you about what CS Matiang'i did yesterday by gazetting the new board. We'll tell you which board is that. But first, let's talk sports. And Sean Caravelis is in studio with me. Sean?
Ken, thank you very much. A very good morning to you. It's all football, and I tell you what, a nervy night both locally and internationally. Gor Mike here, a lot of theories as to why they struggled yesterday, needing a 91st minute goal to overcome Nyasa Big Bullets from Malawi. So it's a 1-0, a very narrow 1-0 lead. Remember, they're at home. Well, they were at home last night, and of course it's a very, very tricky away trip because they've only got one goal separating them from the Malawians. This is the preliminary round of the CAF Champions League. It was held at Kasarani yesterday. And also across Europe, another great night of Champions League action. And Ken, I tell you what, the money being spent in football is really being felt because Paris Saint-Germain, of course, one of the richest clubs in the world, really showed Liverpool the difference between the Premier League and the Champions League. They were all over them like a rash last night. Very, very scary, those two goals that gave them a 2-goal lead between a person who's actually a defender scoring the first goal, and of course Neymar scoring the second goal. Very, very scary how fast the ball moved before going into the net, and then Liverpool getting that goal back 2-1. So Liverpool very, very tricky. They're in third place, in danger of being demoted to the Europa League if they don't get a result against Napoli in the next round. And of course Napoli winning yesterday. Also a win for Tottenham yesterday at Wembley. That a much needed win because they really need the points if they want to stay in the Champions League. Remember, they're still playing at Wembley. Their stadium not ready until possibly early in the new year, their new stadium in North London. And also Barcelona, a good result as well. Lionel Messi back after suffering a broken arm a few weeks ago, and a great goal by him as well. So plenty of football to talk about. And other sports news coming up a little bit later on NTV.
Right, and Sean Caravelis will be joining us at 1 o'clock with all they have on the sports desk. Thank you, Sean Caravelis. We are live all over for you this morning. We're just waiting for Ken Mijungu to go up. We'll begin that discussion in the National Assembly shortly, but we have several stories for you that we want to tell you about. We'll be having in studio Ochila Yako, who is the Senator for Migori County. He'll be joined by David Osiany, who is a governance expert, and also will be speaking to several issues happening in the country. And Nerima Wako, the Executive Director from Siasa Place. They'll be joining me shortly in studio to talk about our discussion for the day, which will include the gender bill, the Senate that rejected the Roraka land report, and obviously we'll talk about the medical list equipment and the debacle therein. But first, the National Hospital Insurance Fund Chief Executive Officer Geoffrey Mwangi and the Finance and Investment Director, Wilbert Kurgat, have been released on a cash bail of 500,000 shillings with an alternative bond of 1 million shillings each. Now, Chief Magistrate Francis Andanyi further ruled that the two accused persons deposit their passports with the courts. The ruling coincided with the suspension from office of the two by the Health Insurance Board. NTV's Mel Mijungu with a report.
The bail application ruling for NHIF CEO Geoffrey Mwangi and his finance counterpart Wilbert Kurgat may have come as a reprieve for the two as they are no longer in police custody.
Each accused person may be released on bond of Kenya shillings 1 million with one surety for like sum. 2. In the alternative, each accused person may be released on bail by depositing a sum of Kenya shillings 500,000 in quotas bail.
Conditions for bail include surrender of passports by both the accused and that each to have a contact person who will deposit a copy of his or her identification card with the court.
The accused persons shall cooperate and abide by any reasonable requirements that may be made of them by the investigating officers as regards further or any other investigations regarding them in relation to this.
Mwangi and Kurgat are now out of police custody but will not operate from their offices at NHIF building until conclusion of their cases. In a letter copied to the Ministry of Health, the NHIF board stated, and I quote, "The Board of Management of National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF, has unanimously resolved to send the current Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Geoffrey Mwangi, and the Acting Director, Finance and Investments, Mr. Wilbert Kurgat, on compulsory leave pending the consideration of the Public Officers case under the Public Service Commission Act No. 10 of 2017. End of quote. Just before the ruling on the bail application by the two, the board announced new appointments for the two positions effective 28th November 2018. Nicodemus Ochieng Odongo as the Acting Chief Executive Officer and Bernard Njenga as the Acting Finance and Investment Director. The board has also appointed an ad hoc committee to work closely with the new appointees in the interim. The two are expected to foster teamwork within the staff and ensure the fund delivers its mandate without interruption. The two have also been appointed as signatories to the NHIF bank accounts, while Geoffrey Mwangi and Wilbert Kurgat have been withdrawn. The NHIF board had convened on 27th November 2018 following investigations and subsequent court proceedings where Mwangi and Kurgat face corruption charges over a scam worth 2 billion shillings at the health insurer. The NHIF case will be mentioned in court on 10th December 2018. Mel Mijungu, NTV.
Right, and that continues. The case has just begun. The National Assembly through the Majority Leader Aden Duale successfully moved and adopted an amendment to the sugar bribery report authored by the Powers and Privileges Committee. Now, Duale had proposed that one of the recommendations, that of the investigations done by Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Committee to have the DCI and EACC investigate Parliament for bribery, be amended to read only individuals should be investigated. Now, the amendment was passed, and now only targeted individuals will answer to the claims that members were bribed to shoot down the sugar report. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations will be limited to investigating individual members of Parliament and not the institution in the ongoing probe of allegations that members took as little as 10,000 shillings to shoot down the sugar report.
The first observation is incriminating all members of the House because it says on top of page 42. And that's why Honorable Pokose saved the whole House. Where are we coming from? And please, majority of those members are new members. Majority. You are excited about what?
The recommendations included one that called upon the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to move in and probe the matter of bribery after the Powers and Privileges Committee finished their own investigations.
We hand ourselves over, you know, that recommendation was handing over the 349 of us to the office of the DCI and the EACC. And today, the DCI can start an investigation and 2022, you might not get clearance. It's as simple as that.
The amendment was adopted. In August, the National Assembly Speaker, Justin Muturi, invited the EACC to look into allegations that members of parliament were bribed to shoot down the contraband sugar probe report.
It's not a malicious report.
Some of the legislators readily admitted that money changed hands to defeat the report. They were instructed to record statements. The Powers and Privileges Committee then convened in September to probe the allegations. But when members of parliament appeared before the committee, they made an unprecedented about-turn, and only one member of parliament maintained that his fellow legislators had been compromised to shoot down the report.
Don't discuss us. If you want to take bribes, Parliament now is putting a comprehensive security CCTV camera. Anybody who takes bribes, we don't want to be part of that person.
The National Assembly rejected a report by the Joint Committee on Trade and Agriculture probing the contraband sugar in the country that had indicted two Cabinet Secretaries, Henry Rotich and Aden Mohammed, as well as their former colleague, Cabinet Secretary Willie Bett. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
Right, very interesting development right there in the National Assembly. Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, who was the only Jubilee Party legislator that supported the motion for adoption of the disputed Ruraka land report, says the Assembly lost a great opportunity to demonstrate its willingness to fight against graft in the country. The Senate shot down the Ruraka land report recommending investigations and prosecution of Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, Education Principal Secretary Bello Kipsang, and the senior National Land Commission officials over alleged irregular compensation of 1.5 billion shillings to businessman Francis Mburu. NTV's Seth Olale with some of the reactions from the Parliament building.
Sakaja says he was convicted by his own conscience to support the motion and not necessarily take a party stand for the adoption of the disputed Ruraka land report. Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i was implicated in the report, so was Education Principal Secretary Bello Kipsang.
Moses Kajwang.
Most Jubilee senators kept away, with only the Nairobi senator supporting the motion.
I think my party is proud of me. My party leader is leading an onslaught against corruption. And we must walk the talk. And I know where his heart is.
Please get him out.
The report, which was compiled by the Senate's Public Accounts and Investment Committee, led by Homa Bay Senator Moses Kajwang, recommended the investigation and prosecution of Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, Education Principal Secretary Bello Kipsang, and senior National Land Commission officials led by Chairman Muhammad Swazuri over the controversial payment of 1.5 billion shillings for public utility land by the Ministry of Education through the National Lands Commission to businessman Francis Mburu.
The government has shut me up out of that land for the last 40 years. I bought that land when I was about 30 years.
15 senators, mostly allied to opposition outfit NASA, supported the motion for the adoption of the report. However, they failed to reach the minimum threshold of 24 votes to adopt the committee's findings. 4 senators, led by Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen, Gideon Moi, Susan Kihika and Samson Cheragei, opposed the motion to adopt the report.
You've lost the war on corruption because your Jubilee party has failed you. The list here is very clear. None of your members showed up today to support you. You're on your own.
With the Senate Assembly's failure to pass the report, which had recommended the recovery of the 1.5 billion shillings, focus shifts to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which already submitted its findings to the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, for prosecution of those implicated. The ownership of the disputed Ruraka land is now being battled in court after the Senate failed to adopt the report of the Public Accounts and Investment Committee. Seth Olale, NTV, Parliament Building.
All right. We have one of the senators who voted for that bill. That's Senator Ochila Yako from Migori County. He'll be speaking to us and we'll ask him that question, or we'll put the question to him why he supported that report from the committee led by Senator Moses Kajwang of Homa Bay. We'll be talking about that shortly, plus the gender bill that was shot down or was unable to go through, or even the question was not
put to the members of parliament because it was short of the numbers required, 233. There were only 212 members of parliament yesterday when they convened in parliament. Plus the listing of the medical equipment. What happened to it? We'll talk about that shortly. But first, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission detectives are hunting down 2 police officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations who escaped after allegedly being caught soliciting for a 1 million shilling bribe from a foreigner. In their Twitter handle, EACC said its officers laid a trap for the DCI officers Julius Oguna and Charles Masharia from Kabete Police Station in Kiambu County. Now, the 2 officers were arrested and handcuffed after falling for the 100,000 shilling trap, money that had been treated. However, EACC claimed they were rescued by their colleagues who arrived at the scene and fired several rounds in the air to facilitate the rescue. The 2 are alleged to have demanded a 1 million shilling bribe from the foreigner. All right, ahead of our discussion right here in the studio, let's speak to Bernardo Joang, who is in Kisii this morning. Bernard, good morning. And from Kisii, I know there's a lot of disappointment. This is the second time that voting has been deferred, and it's also been deferred. But what's the people of Kisii saying? Before you answer that question, let's cross over to Wajir, where Nordin Himogi is also on standby to speak to us about the gender bill yet again, and the fact that Parliament was not able to raise the numbers to put the question. Nudin, good morning from Wajir. What's happening? What are people saying about the fact that Parliament could not live up to their expectation last evening?
Thank you very much, Ken Mijungu. We're coming to you live from Wajir County. Here with me are some of the residents of Wajir County, and let's hear their opinion regarding the deferring of the gender bill. Again, so can your name?
My name is Mukhtar Ahmed. I'm from Wajir County. I believe that what the National Parliament did yesterday and previous times is unfair. They're being unjust. If you take, for example, it took the members of the National Assembly or National Parliament to change the name of CDF from CDF to National Government CDF within a few minutes. But when it comes to the issue of gender, what we can grant our ladies, our mothers, our sisters, it has turned to be a Herculean task for them. It is simply put, this is a patriarchal community. This is a patriarchal nation where the man rules, where the man does what he wants. Total disrespect for the woman. And you can also imagine all those people who failed to pass that bill yesterday. Each of them, when they go back at home, they will either meet a mother, a sister, a grandmother, or a daughter. That is very unfair. That's my take on it.
Thank you very much. And then let's talk to some other guys here. You are kind of your name?
I'm Aden Garat from Wajir. Yangu ni kusema tutasupport hii bill ikiwa wasichana maskini watanominatiwa. Lakini kama political parties watanominate hao wasichana, then hakuna faida kusupport hii bill. Lakini kama grassroots ladies watanominatiwa bila fikaso tutasupport hii bill. Lakini inaonekana sasa political parties leaders, wafanya biashara, wale watu kubwa hata ikipitishwa hao wasichana yao ndio watapatia nominated. Example kutoka county sasa Wajir kama ile ODM juzi nominated assemblies ODM juzi, wale wakubwa wote walipatia wasichana yao ile nominated au kupatia wale wasichana kutoka maskini ambao walikuwa wamepigania ODM. So haisaidii, sioni mimi kama itasaidia.
Thank you very much. Let's take to now can you tell us from a councillor your opinion regarding the gender debate and why do you think it's being deferred again? Start with your name.
My name is Khalifa. I'm a former councillor from the South. Number one, I'm against the ratio because sitaki wasichana wapewe nominated counties kwa wingi.
Okay.
Sababu ni hivi. Wale watapewa nominated kawaida wapewe wasichana ambapo kutoka familia ya wadozi na wakubwa wa maparties. Ukiangalia ODM utakuwa nusu dozen nzima ya nominations waliopewa ni familia ya Raila Odinga. Na hapo ukienda Jubilee utakuta ni big fishes kama Adambare, Jubilee, Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto. So tunaona hii ni biashara, hakuna haja ya kupatia wasichana vitu vingi sana, hakuna kile wataleta kuingozea nchi. They are bringing nothing. They have no ideas. Hakuna haja ya kuweka wasichana wengi na kupatia hao chances mingi sana. I think they cannot do.
Thank you very much, and Ken, coming back to you, Wajir County, out of 30 elected and in the county assembly, none of them is a lady here. Privileged to tell you the perception the local population here have against women leadership. And out of the 6 members of parliament, none is a lady here. The only elected female comes through the women representative seat, which is a mandatory seat for the women. And back to you, Ken. Over.
Right. Hirmoge, thank you very much from Wajir. Let's cross over and go to Kisii now, where Bernardo Juang is also on standby. Bernard, good morning and good to see you from the county of Kisii. Talk to us about what the views of the people of Kisii are about the fact that Parliament could not raise the numbers to even put the question on the gender bill.
Well, good morning, Ken. We are here in Kisii town. Remember, it is a debate that started a long time ago, and yesterday, Kenyan women thought that the day could come to an end. But unfortunately, after the request that was made by the majority leader, Aden Duale, that the voting should be put on hold and until February come next year, it is something that has been criticized by many people in the country, especially women, saying that why should the male politician deny them what is meant for them? And remember, it is something that has been top political leaders here in the country have been drumming up their support. Remember, Raila Odinga who said that female politician should be given that opportunity to lead. Also, Kalonzo Musyoka also said that he is supporting the bill. William Ruto urging male politician to support the deal. But unfortunately, that the plea that was made by top leaders here in the country, MPs defied that need. And now we are just going to talk to some of the locals here. Just tell us, what do they think about this after MPs requested that this bill, the voting, be put on hold? Join me here. You'll start with your name and tell us, what do you think about this?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vivian Omariba. I come from Kisii County, and I work at the county government of Kisii. I'm also very passionate about women and youth involvement in policy and governance. Now, first of all, I think that there was need to push it forward and for people to actually engage in this thing positively and more consultation to be done. But for me as Vivian and from a youth perspective, I think that women should actually be involved in governance and policy making. Actually, statistically speaking, and even when you look at the Kenyan population, women form up to about 54%. That means that there's more human resource and more skill, and that we should leverage in their skills and talent and involve them in decision making and policy making.
Vivian, according to the argument that was made by these male politicians, they were saying that the bill is good, but it is not only. It is only going to help those people who are just next to these political, who are just close to these political parties, but not women here at the mashinani. What do you think about this?
For me, I think that is not the case. First of all, I think that people should change their attitudes. Women are not there just to be seen. Women also have something to bring to the table. And I think that we've come from far. Looking back, it wasn't always the case. Women were not really involved as much as they are involved now. And I think that it is actually even time now to change the attitudes even more. And bringing the idea that women are also educated just as men are educated, exposed to the same opportunities just as men, and I think that, and I know that women also have something to bring to the table, and it's not going to benefit only those that are close to the parliamentarians or leaders, male leaders, but also to everyone. Actually, there's an adage that says, if you educate a woman, you educate society. But if you educate a man, you educate an individual. So I think that when we we leverage in women's skills, they are also going to transmit the same to girls and other youth women leaders.
Well, thank you very much, Vivian. I'll speak to another person. Join me here, madam. What do you think about this? It was put on hold up to April. Join me here. Up to February come next year. Are you of the idea?
My feel is okay. I don't want to comment about it was put on hold and what, but I'm happy that we're even having this conversation about gender inclusion. I know as a country we've come this far. Myself, I'm a product of this talk. I am working in the government because of the inclusion about women and everything. So by virtue that even we are having a conversation is a very good thing. What I can say generally is that it's high time that the Kenyan society, the people, should look at women as people who can perform, not because of the gender rule that says that women should be included, but because women have the competence, they have the ability, they have everything to give the very best as the men can do.
What was your expectation yesterday?
I expected what I'm saying, because sometimes when women are coming up, women are, like now, I can say the milestone, we have 3 governors. That is a milestone. I expected the same, you know, from the men and the women. They feel like if we give room so much, we are going to be overshadowed. Yeah, so it's expected, it's good. For me, it's a very good thing, because we are even talking about it in Kisii County, yes.
So do you think women should be given what they deserve?
Yes, they should be given. They should be given. And even when they are given these opportunities, let them come, let the opportunities come with resources so that they can really prove to the world that we can do it. And then based on that, they can also be, people can check, when we gave you this opportunity, did you deliver? Not that I didn't deliver because I didn't have the resources, I didn't deliver because of the cultural aspect. It should be just a fair playing ground.
It has been put on hold. It was requested that it should be put on hold up to February. What are your expectations?
I expect that by February they come to an amicable solutions should be found or should be reached. And I feel that the time between now, we are expecting so many things, and even now awareness. The people will get to know. Like now, they were saying that if this is passed, it's going to maybe benefit the elite people and everything. But I feel that the time between now and February, then even the local Mamamboga is going to get about the conversation we are having. Yes.
Well, thank you very much. I'll talk to another person, the last person. Join me. I'll talk to one person here, bodaboda rider. Join me, mzee. Habari yako? Je, unaona hii two-third gender rule jana ilikuwa ipitishwe, walikuwa wapige kura wabunge, lakini wakaomba kwamba isukume hadi Februari.
Hiyo jana tunasema kwamba wanawake wanataka hii viti wanawake ndio wengi ukiangalia Kenya. Ni kama wao wapendani. Kama walikuwa wanapendana, unajua wangepiga kura, hata hakuna kitu hata kimoja mwanaume angechukua. Hivyo ni kama wao wenyewe hawana heshima. Kama wangekuwa na heshima, wangepigana kura, wakae parliament wengi, sisi ndio tukose viti. Lakini kwamba inaonekana hawana uongozi. Na ile kitu mwanamke alipewa kazi yake achunge watoto, kazi yake atengenezewa mzee majukumu yake, bibi akae nyumbani.
Kwa nini amuunge mkono?
Sisi tunaona kwamba kuna ile walipewa women rep. Tena ikiongezwa ingine tunaona mzigo. Kwa vile hata hii kazi yetu tunafanya bodaboda, maisha imekuwa ngumu juu ya gharama. Watu ni wengi wamewekwa hapo wanakula pesa. Sisi tukitafuta pesa na hiyo pesa inatoka kwetu. Sasa tunaona mzigo imekuwa mzito kwetu.
So mwanamke hana nafasi humu nchini.
Mwanamke ile kitu tunasema wacha apige kura na wengine achukue kiti, lakini kama hakuna akae nyumbani.
Well, thank you very much. Ken, you've just heard from Kisii County resident. I was speaking to some of the women. They are saying that they should be given what they deserve as stated in the Constitution, and they are requesting male politicians and also top leaders, political leaders, at least to join hand in this race and make sure that come on February, that was requested by majority leader Dwale, when it comes that time, it will be voted, and women get what they deserve. And also, you've heard from a man, they are saying that women they still believe the traditional belief that women should just remain there back at home and take care of the children. Back to you, Ken.
Right, Bernardo Juang, thank you very much. Bernardo Juang from the county of Migori. And just Tweet here from Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. He says the success of the gender parity question is anchored on the management of political party primaries and the nomination lists. Funding of parties should have the gender factor. The rest is drama. That's from Senator Mutula Kilonzo. Right, let's cross over now to Kirinyaga County, where Martin Mwaura is on standby. Martin, good morning. I know this debate on the gender bill has traversed the whole nation, but later I know also that the CS Mwangi Kiunjuri will be in Kirinyaga. What is he likely to be doing in Kirinyaga this morning, Martin?
Good morning, Ken, from studio. We are coming live from Kirinyaga, as you have said it. Now, we are in Kirinyaga for two things. The CS, who is the CS for Agriculture, Mwangi Kiunjuri, will be touring this area for what he's calling inspection tour of the project. That is Tibadam and Mian, Mwea Irrigation Agricultural Development, where he's going to be inspecting various projects that are being undertaken by the National Irrigation Board. But on our topic today, which is about the two-third gender rule, you know, Kirinyaga is being led by a woman, the governor who is Anwe Guru, is a lady. She's just one of the three women governors we have in Kenya. That is from Kitui, we have Charity Ngilu, and Bomet, we have her name is Joyce Laboso. Now, we'll be talking to the residents just to tell us their views about the two-third gender rule. Are they for it? Are they against it? We just want to sample their views and tell us more what they did so that they can have a women leader. Is it possible even in other parts of the country? Haya, karibuni sana. Nataka nianze kwa majina. Wacha kwanza nianze na msichana mswada. Uniambie wewe kulingana na ile mswada ambao iko bungeni ya two-third gender, unaisupport, na kama unaisupport kwa nini na ama umekataa?
I'm Doris Zaki. About this gender, I'm against it because the common mwananchi will get hurt in the process. These people need the talent. Like our governor, she fought. So I think the other women should be there, and nobody can come to select you from your house, so you should fight like that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let me talk to another gentleman here. Aniambie maoni yako kuhusu mswada huo
wa kwa majina yangu naitwa Dominic. Mimi against it kwa sababu sitaki mwananchi wa kawaida ama wajikodi anaendelea na kuumia, na tutaenda more deeper kwa mifuko yetu na tutapata pesa hizo za kuwalipa. Wako wengi na wale wako hatuoni wa kufanyia kazi bila inavyostahili. Kwa hivyo kuongeza wengine itakuwa mzigo kwa mwananchi wa kawaida.
Wewe unahisi namna gani kuhusu mswada?
Right, we apologize for that. We'll try and get him back to speak to us, and let's proceed as we wait for Martin to rectify that small challenge right there. The National Assembly was forced to postpone a vote on the two-third gender bill after the leader of majority, Eden Duale, moved to have it deferred out of fear that the bill would flop due to lack of the required 233 members to pass it. Duale argued that the tide against the bill was so heavy that proceeding with it would be akin to watering down the efforts so far gained in realizing the achievements, this pushing it to February 29th of next year. Speaker Justin Muturi granted that request. NTV's political affairs reporter, Ken Mijungu, has been following the debate on realizing the gender bill and has prepared the following report.
It has been a long way coming for the gender bill that has made its way to the floor of the House various times and in different forms. This time round, at least on the side of women MPs, there was optimism that the bill would sail through and hand them the numbers they require to meet constitutional requirements. But the bill suffered the same fate similar bills have before. It lacked the required 233 members for its support.
Speaker.
There were 212 members in the House when the majority leader was called to reply, thus leaving him with no option other than to call on the Speaker to postpone the vote.
I'm conscious that should we proceed to attempt to take the vote, and upon counting the members present, and if it is discovered that we are less than the requisite threshold of 233 members as required under Article 256D of the Constitution, we will risk losing the bill.
Women MPs have been frantically lobbying for the passage of the bill for some time now, including organizing breakfast meetings and dinners for the stakeholders and MPs in an effort to gain support, but their male counterparts have been blowing hot and cold on supporting their cause.
Women have been marginalizing themselves. In my own constituency, we have more women than more men, but they voted for me as members of parliament. So this means that women are very mature in the upstairs.
The journey for realizing gender parity has also been a hard one, with male MPs believing that it was an avenue for party leaders to introduce girlfriends and family into the assembly and thus have been critical of it. Most spoke in low tones on the matter, but others felt it was a matter that should be broadcast.
If it is for the slay queens to slay their way into the National Assembly, to massage their way into the Senate, and slay their way into County Assembly, Honorable Speaker, then I do have some reservation.
Other hurdles the bill has faced in its realization is the fact that some women MPs who have gone through rigorous campaigns and fought off stiff competition to clinch the seats they occupy felt it was not fair to add extra seats and thus were not keen on it. It is argued their support was aesthetic. Similar attempts to actualize the gender bill have ended in disappointment several times, forcing the women leaders to re-strategize.
And all the party leaders who've gone on TV and said we support this, why haven't you all called PGs?
Turkana South MP James Lomenen is drafting a motion calling on Parliament to do away with Article 81B of the Constitution, which requires that not more than 2/3 of the members of elective public bodies shall be of the same gender. There are those who believe that the pushing on taking a vote on this matter to February next year is just a subtle way of killing it altogether, as there is a good number of members of parliament who have insisted they will not support the bill as is. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV at Parliament Buildings.
Kennedy Mureithi again this morning. Kennedy, good morning. Good to see you from the National Assembly. And just to let you know that in studio we have the Senator for Migori County, Ochila Yako, and David Oseny, who will be speaking to me. We're still waiting for Nerima Wako. But yesterday, interestingly, we saw the NASA troop in and they had senators with them. What was the reason for that yesterday? Why did they have to have the senators back at the National Assembly?
Ken, I can't get you properly. Please repeat the question.
All right. Yesterday, we saw, while they were trying to get the numbers to the National Assembly to put the question, we saw NASA troop in with the senators. So why was it necessary to have the senators at the National Assembly last afternoon?
Oh, well, if it is with regards to the 2/3 gender, then Ken, yesterday they were not there just to make sure that anything or vote, but they were just offering support to the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And they were just there just to make sure that they can marshal up support with regards to the 2/3 gender bill. But what we saw is that they could not reach the requisite numbers, and that is what led the majority leader in the National Assembly, Eden Duale, to defer or to call on the Speaker to defer the vote to next year. And they say that yesterday the stakes were too high, that if they would have proceeded to a vote, then probably it would have flopped badly. Yesterday, most male MPs who were in the chambers have defied all the party leaders, and they decided that it is time that they stood with what they are saying that Mwananchi has sent them. And they insist that at the ground level and in the constituencies where they do represent, it is actually becoming very hard to sell the additional members who are supposed to come into Parliament. And right now, I am joined by one member of Parliament. I want to talk to him very fast because they're being called in. There is no quorum. And Mheshimiwa, yesterday was an interesting day in Parliament, and we did expect that probably members of Parliament will come in and actually pass the 2/3 gender bill. What do you think of it?
I understand that yesterday we were there
and we were expecting this to fulfill as the Constitution of Kenya says, but at the same time the numbers were not enough. So meaning that that is why the majority leader decided to suspend for the time. But maybe let's hope by February we will comply with the Constitution. But at the same time, I would like to urge our ladies just to let us compete, and we will get this post easily without struggling this much.
But probably, what is the message that your constituents are telling you on the ground as you come? There are some members of parliament who are insisting that at the ground level, in the constituencies where they do represent, it is a very unpopular bill, and that is why they are not supporting it. What are your constituencies, or what are your constituents telling you with regards to this bill?
This is what is happening even in Igembe South constituency, since the ones who are insisting that we are not supposed to pass this bill, they are ladies, because they are saying that they do not understand the criteria which will be used by the leaders to nominate those women. At the same time, we being independent, like me, I am an independent candidate. At the same time, how will they, which criteria will they use to nominate these women, the independent ones, meaning that the ones who will be benefiting are the ladies who are in political parties, meaning that that is something which is making the Kenyans not to agree with this bill. At the same time, you can see there was a raise in tax, there was a hiking. Even when we will hand these numbers in the parliament, at the same time we are going to hand another bulk to the common mwananchi, where they will have to pay more so that they can satisfy them, or they can pay the salaries of these nominated members. But it is good, as we support the women of this republic, let even them show that they show the Kenyans that they are ready to be supported. Let them come out in the arena of political arena at the same time to campaign and be elected, because in the working on, if we can see the situation where we have women as the MPs, they are working. And that work, I understand that it will reciprocate to their constituents where they can be elected. And I understand that those numbers we will get them very easily. The 2000 gender rule, I do not see that it is very difficult to attain that number if those ladies, they can be allowed to go on the ground, and even the conditions to be given whereby the ground will be neutral, they compete with the men's. Yeah, if John Paul in my hinge, I competed with those guys who ask money, because what the ladies are complaining about, it is because they are saying that men who they are competing with, they has a lot of money. That is why they are defeating them on the ground. But at the same time, why does they not implement or use the strategy which I used on the ground there? They can win very easily.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. I'll let you go. And regarding that Kenya is actually a patriarchal society, it is a debate that has kicked off, and probably since they are the majority in parliament, it is a question that is coming in. And Ken, probably you have a very good panel there in studio. And one of the things that has come out from yesterday's debate here in parliament, and one that we want you guys to tackle, is the fact that probably either today or next year, when this thing will be gathering pace again, we do expect that Turkana South Member of Parliament, that is James Lominen, will be bringing a bill before the National Assembly, and they will be intending to delete Section 81, that is Article 81B of the Constitution, that requires that not more than 2/3 of any elective body should be of the same gender, not just elective body, but also in government circles. It is a question that they will really be tackling. And what is the viability? Will we be requiring a constitution for us to delete that one, or under 255, whereby it is those Under Article 255, it says what requires a referendum and what does not require a referendum. Is the deletion of Article 81B one of those things that requires a referendum? Or it is just the 233 members who will be required, as Ken Mijungu was telling me yesterday, you require 233 members to defeat the 233 that is required. Probably it is something that you can be looking up to. Ken, it is something that Osiani and Senator there can be tackling right now.
Right, I think the Senator can answer that question because he's also a lawyer. Do we require a referendum to delete Article 81B of the Constitution? Is the question from Ken.
In my view, yes, we do. We require a referendum. I believe from my own feeling that constitution making is bigger than parliament. And constitution unmaking is also bigger than parliament.
Okay.
So we cannot give an institution created by the constitution the sole responsibility to make or unmake the constitution.
Okay.
The constitution is what constitutes us as a nation, and the constitution is what creates parliament and vests power in it. So I think even if the constitution does not say so, this is a weighty matter that should not be taken lightly. This is something that should not be left to the whims of a few individuals or the feeling of the day that they don't like some people or they like some people.
Okay, but that's very interesting, Senator, because Article 255 of the Constitution lists what we require a referendum for. Apart from the fact that your view is that we cannot leave this to a few individuals, precisely 349, to amend or to delete a whole section, a subsection of the Article 81B of Article 81 of the Constitution. It's not one of the things listed under Article 255 of the Constitution.
That is true, but if it was to be deleted, it will significantly alter the composition, the nature and the content and participation of members of parliament.
Okay.
It is also something that goes to the very foundation of rights. Because gender parity is a matter of human rights. It's global. It is a matter of justice. So, you know, politics and campaigns in parliament are things that people just vote for. Okay. So in my view, although it may not be listed, I think this is a question that Kenyans should answer.
Right.
Just like Kenyans should answer the question as to what size of parliament they want.
Okay.
It's not parliamentarians to do it. I do not see any member of parliament, senator or national assembly reducing the size of parliament.
Okay. Nerima, this is very interesting, and I want your input on this. What is the import of deleting 81B? What does it mean? Does it mean that we don't even need the current debate once it's not there? Because I think it was born from the fact that this debate has pulled on and on and on. So what is the import of deleting 81B?
I think it's a retrogressive move because when the Constitution was being formulated, it's one of the most progressive in the world, actually. And it's one of those documents that have been criticized because it seems to be a utopia where if everybody had access to power, to resources, it would be equal access. And that's what Article 81B is about. It's not about women. It's about justice for all people, where in the event that in any gathering, in any parliament, that whatever gender, 2/3 cannot be more. Okay. And so it shouldn't be viewed as this is something that women are fighting for. It's something they're fighting for right now. We don't know what the future holds. What if it becomes like what happened in the genocide with Rwanda, where most men passed because they were fighting in the war? So we had a country that was predominantly led by women. And so that's why we can see Rwanda currently is leading when it comes to women representation. And we can see development and progress. So research does show that when women are in leadership, it does lead to economic development. So what we should be concerned about here is if that clause is completely removed, then there is no space for any individual who is of whatever gender that's minority to have access to power. Okay. And those are the conversations we should be having, not women. It should be societal injustice if that clause is removed from the Constitution.
All right. David, your input on this.
Nerima's assertion that countries led by the womenkind tend to do better
is not premised on fact. Otherwise, countries like Singapore, who have never had a female leader, would not be among the most progressed countries. However, suffice to say, question is the clamor for an increase in the number of women representatives in parliament a good thing? Yes. Is it progressive? Yes. Is it a good practice? Certainly. However, the ladies who have been leading the debate on this gender thing, because after President Uhuru Kenyatta requested that we pass that particular bill or enact it, the ladies made it not a gender issue, they made it a feminist issue. That's where we get it wrong. Gender connotes both male and female. And so they should have had amongst them champions of who are male, pushing forward with the debate on representation. Senator Mutula Kilonzo says, and I agree to a huge extent, that this should, however, be started from our parties, which is in Article 91 of the Constitution, Chapter 7, which expects the parties to mirror the expectation of the Constitution. Fair enough. There is an obligation, however, on Kenyans, as it sits squarely on the parliamentarians as well, to try and see whether we can open the space, because now this bill has been made to look like women, because we are a patriarchal system, society.
Okay.
And since we are a patrimonial or patriarchal society, the mankind or the male have dominated various spaces of leadership, both in the corporate world, parliamentary, I mean, all over.
Yes.
Getting a lot more women to get into spaces of leadership is a good thing. Empowering them for that is a good thing. But there are many attendant laws that need to be put in place that will guide and lead the debate on increasing the number of the womenkind in parliament.
Okay.
Until and unless that is done, then the context in which we are
currently
will not be able to allow the implementation of that rule.
I think that is where the main debate begins, because that is also where we falter. That's why we are unable to raise even numbers in parliament, because no one seems to understand why this is happening. And I think you're bringing in a new perspective that I haven't had all week, and I've had this debate the whole week, but I anticipated that today I'll be talking about this, because there was no way the National Assembly was going to raise the numbers. There was no marshalling. There was no whipping of members of parliament. We did not see the kind of
there was no
commitment from even the leadership of the parties, except the fact that yesterday we saw Nasser in parliament. But it wasn't enough. I'd like to talk about that more. So, ladies and gentlemen, hold your thoughts. When we come back, we'll begin with the gender bill, and I'd like to talk about that extensively. And in studio with me is Senator from Migori County, Ochila Yako. We have Nerima Wako Ojiwa from Siasa Place, and David Osiany, a consultant. And of course, I have to say, it's a Migori affair today, right? All right, we're taking a short break. It's a Migori affair. All right, we're coming back with this, and we'll also speak to Ken Mijungu one more time from Parliament. But remember, and Martin Mwaura from Kirinyaga. Remember, the former Chief Executive Officer for the IEBC, Ezra Chiloba, is appearing before Parliament's Account Committee this morning too. We'd like to cross over and see how he answers the question, but we'll talk to my panel when we come back. First, to take a break on NTV Today. In a moment, we'll be back. And welcome back to NTV Today. My name is Ken Mijungu. We are having a discussion this morning. The first discussion is on gender bill. Then we will be discussing the Senate and the fact that they were unable to adopt the report on the Ruaraka land. And lastly, we'll be speaking about the medical equipment that was leased, and now there's a debacle and there's a back and forth from the governors and the national government. But first, let's tell you what we are looking out for this morning for you. The Ministry of Health is scheduled to have a meeting with the Senate Health Committee in conjunction with the National Assembly today at Safari Park Hotel to discuss matters universal healthcare. Universal healthcare is one of the pillars of President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda, which is now translated to Big Five with the addition of corruption into that agenda. And former IEBC Chief Executive Officer Ezra Chiloba will be appearing this morning before the National Assembly's Accounts Committee, barely 2 months after he was unceremoniously dismissed from office. Chiloba was accused of impropriety by the Commission and inability to respond to audit queries. He was suspended in April for 3 months and suspended again after he went to court and obtained orders against the Commission. All right, those are the stories we have on the diary, but we're keeping our eye on the following stories. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the police have launched a manhunt for 2 police officers who were caught soliciting for a 1 million shilling bribe from a foreign national. A statement from the EACC posted on its Twitter handle, also copied by the DCI, says the duo, that's Julius Oguna and Charles Masharia, were soliciting for the bribe. EACC has further revealed that the 2 who are DCI officers are attached to the Kabete police station escaped after they were handcuffed with the help of their colleagues who fired several rounds in the air. One had drug money drug money of about 100,000 shillings. He left also with the handcuffs. And the second day of interviews seeking to replace, okay, that's a different one. We'll talk about that later on. But let's update you on news just in coming to us this morning also, that the CS in charge of Interior, that's Fred Matiang'i, has appointed the following to the Firearms Licensing Board. Charles Mongera Mukindia will be the chairman of the Firearm Licensing Board, the newly reconstituted licensing board. We have the other members as David Kihinga, Jackson Kimutai Rotich, Vincent Waboro, Nancy Kabete, Justin Odhiambo, Kaduli, and Lazarus Mbondo. Remember, about a week ago, the CS in charge of Interior disbanded that board and said that all firearms and licenses needs to be returned and a new board will be reconstituted. He's just reconstituted. And those on your screen are the members of the new board that take up that office effective immediately. All right, with me in studio is Senator for Migori, who will be speaking to me. We have Nerima Wako from Siasa Place, and we have David Osiany, a consultant who will be speaking to us. But first, let's cross over to Parliament and speak to Kennedy Mureithi once more about the gender bill and what to expect with Ezra Chiloba appearing before the Parliamentary Accounts Committee. Ken, first tell us, this is the first time Ezra Chiloba has been called before the Parliamentary Accounts Committee after he was dismissed from office. And then secondly, speak to us about what the members of Parliament are saying about their inability to raise the numbers yesterday to put the question.
Well, Ken, as you said, is that any time from now we'll be expecting the Public Accounts Committee to have a sitting, and they'll be expecting to meet Ezra Chiloba, who has not appeared before. I remember that at a press conference that was setting in stage when they will be discussing the 2017 elections. The chairperson of that committee, that is Opio, and I came and said that they were calling the stakeholders and those people who were in office at that particular time. And it is from what Chebukati and his commissioners and other officials from the IEBC have said before that committee that has precipitated them to call Ezra Chiloba to come in. We do expect them explosive matters to come out of that committee, whereby Chiloba has actually been fixed, and those people who have been speaking on this matter were categorical that it is a probability that Ezra Chiloba drove this agenda on himself. So how will Ezra Chiloba be trying to wriggle himself out of this debacle? And what will he be saying with regards to his role in the 2017 elections? As you've rightly said, he was suspended, and later on Chebukati actually went ahead to fire him. He's not spoken since, but right now he's going to have that opportunity where he will be speaking on this matter. It will be interesting to see what his views are. Is he going to come with a truckload of evidence just trying to fix those commissioners that are in office at this particular time? And every media house is actually here just expecting to hear what is this that Chiloba is going to be saying. It is the biggest story that is coming out of Parliament today. But just before that, there's a story that unfolded yesterday, as you've also asked me to tackle, and it is the matter on gender bill. And yesterday, members of Parliament were 212 in the House when the Majority Leader, Aiden Duale, was called to reply to the motion. And as he started, a majority of those members who were in Parliament are actually thought to have been those who are against this motion. If a vote were to be carried out at that particular time, those supporting the gender bill would have been less. But right now, I'm joined by Ainab Koi, Member of Parliament, William Chep, in Wasingishu County, that is William Chepkut. And I want to know what led to what happened yesterday. Actually, it is being read as a flop. Moving it from yesterday, despite the lobbying that has been there, is actually being seen as a flop. What was wrong with this bill? Why will you not pass it?
First of all, me, I'm a very objective member of Parliament, very constructive, and very moderate. The biggest problem was nomination criteria. We want Article 118 of our Constitution be followed fully. We want public access and public participation. In the nomination criteria, I want church elders, I want youth, women, and persons with disabilities be involved. And I want them to be nominated. I don't want people who are in Nairobi to be nominated. I want people in my own constituency benefit. And I want them to represent our own people in the National Assembly.
When you're saying that people in Nairobi, and one of your members of Parliament, when he stood, actually said that people in Nairobi and added a word like slay queens. Are these the kind of people that you're talking about when you're saying people in Nairobi?
Anyway, all I'm saying, people in Nairobi, be it slay queens, just what you said, we want our local people be nominated. We want church elders, we want opinion leaders, we want youth, and we want women and people with disabilities, according to the constitution of this country.
Now, then before I let you go, there is this other proposal by Turkana South Member of Parliament, James Lomenen, and he's proposing that we do away with Article 81B of the Constitution. It is something that is still at the draft stage, but he's saying that we remove that article that is requiring us to have at least 2/3 gender in every elective body or even at any public body. What do you think of it?
Article 81B is gaining momentum. We are still discussing, and we shall let you know. It is in discussion. We are still discussing. Having said that, I want to make things straight about maize. Maize is a staple food, at the same time a commercial crop. And I want an overhaul in National Cereals and Produce Board. We want competent people to run NCBB. And I want cooperatives in my own constituency and the entire Uasin Gishu County and the entire North Rift be formed so that they supply and they enter contract with government so that all these cartels will not appear. And I want fertilizer. It's over.
Thank you very much. Mheshimiwa, he is from Uasin Gishu County, and he was saying that we could not let him go without talking about maize and with regards to what he really wants. And he said that he would also want an overhaul of the NCPB board. It is a matter that is very thorny in the Rift Valley, and we could not have let him go without saying that. But right now, Ken, you have a brilliant panel in studio, and I will give you that opportunity probably to continue and carry up with this discussion. Back to you in studio.
Right, Kennedy Mureithi, thank you very much. Kennedy Mureithi is also reporting on the matter of Ezra Chiloba appearing before the Public Accounts Committee this morning in the National Assembly. Before I speak to my panel once more, let me take you once more to Kirinyaga, where Martin Maure is. Martin, good morning, if you can hear me now. You were talking to us about the gender bill and the fact that they were not able to raise quorum to even put the question. What are the people of Kirinyaga talking about?
Thank you, Ken, in studio. Now, as I had told you, I'm coming live from Kirinyaga County, where the leader, the top leadership, the governor, is a woman. She's just among the 3 governors who were elected during the 2017 general election. One of them being Charity Kaluki Ngilu, who is in Kitui, and Joyce Laboso, who is in Bomet. Now, we're just going to talk to people of Kirinyaga to tell us their views about how they feel about the 2/3 gender rule, which is being debated in parliament. Now, kindly, tafadhali, nianzie na majina na uniambie wewe kuhusu mswada huu wa 2/3 gender rule. Una support?
Mimi naitwa Edward Kirago Midhamo, na hii mambo ya kuchaguana, mambo ya wanawake tukiwa iko pamoja na wanaume, hiyo haileti shangwe kwa sababu sisi wenyewe sisi tunaumia. Mwananchi wa kawaida anaumia. Hizo pesa zingefanya kazi nyingine ambayo inaweza fanya ambayo tuwe tumeendelea mbele na maisha. Lakini sasa hizi mambo imekuwa nyingi sana, mara hii sasa unaona sisi bado tunaendelea kuumia, mwananchi wa kawaida. Kwa hivyo ningesema hii mambo ya kuchaguana kwanza iachane nayo. Alafu kwingine tutaendelea mbele baadaye Mungu akitujalia.
Kulingana na maoni yako, unaona ni kama tuko overrepresented, kama tuko na leaders wengi?
Hapa mahali hata hii mambo ya governor, senator na women rep, hata women rep na senator hatujui wanafanya kazi gani. Tena mtuongezee watu wengine ati ni kunominate, mnanominate. Au ladies, mbona wasiende kwa kuchaguana, wachaguliwe, wakuje huko in the correct manner. Lakini si ati watake kunominatiwa tu, kupatiwa kiti tu ovyo ovyo. Hii kiti haipatanangi ovyo ovyo.
Asante.
Asante.
Acha tusikie maoni ya mzee wetu hapa. Nianzie na majina, uniambie wewe kuhusu, ngoja kidogo. Uniambie wewe kulingana na mswada huu una support?
Siwezi nakataa.
Nianzie kwa majina.
Kwa majina ni James Kingori Waome. Na mimi kama nigeulizwa, hawa mama wanataka wachaguliwe kwa bunge, wasiongezewe kwa sababu vile tuko uchumi umesoroteka. Na kwa sababu vile kuko wakiongezewa ndivyo watahitaji mshahara zaidi. Na sisi kama wajiko ama hawa wafanyikazi tutaendelea na kufinywa kodi kwa sababu ya kuongezewa mshahara mkubwa. Kwa hivyo kwa maoni yangu wagojee 2022 wakuchaguliwa chaguliwe. Lakini kwa maoni yangu na nikiulizwa na jia nyingine wasiongezwe, wasimamie mahali walikuwa. Kwa sababu hata ningeulizwa kama women rep sijui kazi yake ile anafanya. Senator sijui kazi ile anafanya. Deputy governor sijui kazi ile anafanya. Na mshahara wa mapatio kubwa. Na pia wamaziri wale wachaguliwa wanaendelea na kusema waongezewe pesa zingine. Mwana Kenya wa kawaida kama wajiko si anaendelea na kufinywa nikiwa mmoja wao.
Asante sana mzee. Asante. Haya, sasa maybe juu ya jinsia niambie maoni yako kuhusu.
Okay, maoni yangu mimi kwanza naitwa Alice Dwega, nasimamia Nice Energy in Nice Digital City, na kwa maoni yangu kuhusu hii mswada, kwanza mimi I look about the performance. If there is a man somewhere who cannot perform, then we get a lady somewhere who can, the man who is not performing and there is a lady who can perform. Let us go for that. For example, mimi niko hapa Nice Energy, nikuwe si perform, maybe nimeenda nyumbani. Then wanatafuta arende who can perform. Then wanatafuta wamekosa. So I think for me, they're supposed to, if they are man, there's a man who can perform. Then they go for that man. So for me, it's about the performance, nothing else.
Okay. Asante sana. Wacha tuongee na msichana mdogo yuko hapa. Nianzie na majina yako na niambie maoni yako kuhusu msaada huu ni upi.
I'm Doris Njage from Nice Energy. I'm a worker. About this thing, I'm not supporting it at all because kama kuna mwanamke somewhere anataka kuingia hapo, she must go for it. Si atolewe kwa nyumba. Then atakuwa naumiza this common mwananchi because the salary itakuwa inatufinyilia sisi kama wafanyikazi. So if they want it, let them wait for 2022. Huyo mwanamke aende for that seat kama governor wetu. Kama hivyo sasa.
Sasa maybe this bill is going to be coming to parliament again in February. Do you think it's going to say to, okay, maybe what is your appeal to the MPs? Do you want it to be passed or you just want it to be killed?
They should not go for it because it won't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. One last gentleman before we wind up. Niambie maybe maoni yako kuhusu mswada huu.
Mimi ni Dominic, mfanyikazi wa Nice Digital City. Mimi maoni yangu nimekataa katakata. Sababu hata wale wako hakuna kitu wanafanya, ni msahara ya bure. Wakitaka kwenda kuserekea wanaenda ng'ambo, wanaserekea na pesa yetu na wanarudi, na hiyo pesa isaidii Wajiko. Kwa hiyo hata wao tumechagua, mimi ningeulizwa maoni yangu, hata wale wako wangelindiusiwa wawe kidogo. Mambo ya gavana na maseneta na women rep sioni anja yao kuwa wapo, sababu hawasaidii mwananchi wa kawaida. Wangelindiusiwa badala ya kuongezewa walindisiwe wawe kidogo.
Sasa kulingana na wewe unajua this is a constitutional right. Yeah. It's a process. Yeah. Na inasemekana kuwa isipopitishwa bunge inaweza vunjwa. Wewe una support yangushe?
Mimi na support hata kama ni kuvunjwa bunge ivunjwe, tuende kwa ndebe tena, waingie wote, hata wao wanauliza kazi, waje kwa ndebe tuwachague waweze kuendelea.
Asante sana.
Karibu
Thank
sana.
You. Those are just some of the views of Kirinyaga residents about the two-third gender role. Taking back to studio.
Right, Martin Mwaura, thank you very much from Kirinyaga. And later, Martin Mwaura will be speaking to CS Kiunjuri, who is doing a special tour of the projects there. Let me come back to studio, and Senator for Migori County, Ochila Yako, is in studio with us. Nerima Wako, the Executive Director from CS Place, and David Osiany, a consultant and a governance expert, is also in studio with us to speak about all these matters. Let me begin. At least my panel is balanced.
Yeah, we have.
This is balanced, right?
We have a third.
Yeah.
We need more ladies.
And you are equal to the task. Let me begin with you, Nerima. I don't want to go back to the debate. We've had the debate. We had the pros, we've had the cons. We've even had Parliament come with an unparliamentary language of slay queen, and it's been adopted and it's being used in Parliament. So let's talk about the future of this bill. One, why is it that after the attempt to marshal, after postponing voting for a week, they were still not able to raise quorum? Is there a lack of goodwill from the top of this discussion?
Absolutely, and it's very obvious to see, because if we even look at our cabinet secretaries, there's no gender parity there. So if we wanted to talk about goodwill, even in our political parties, there's no gender parity there. So even before we start discussing Parliament, it's very difficult to talk about bringing that into Parliament when in the very machines that organize people to come into Parliament do not have gender parity, then we can say that there's no goodwill politically. But I think also it's interesting that it was also set up in a time that the blue economy was also happening simultaneously, so people were obviously not present. But not only that, it would also be fascinating to see the women who didn't support the bill, for instance. And there's a lot happening within that space that is not quite clear. We can tell, as much as we say these are politicians and it's political, I think we need to be concerned about the issues that are on the table. Gender parity is important to the people of Kenya, but I guess people have a problem with the system or the processes used to meet that gender parity. And even if we look at different government structures, we can look at England with the House of Lords, where they have actual experts within certain fields who are able to articulate certain issues. For us, we have a bill that has come to to the table. People are not quite sure who formulated this bill, where it has come from, where it has come to this decision. Is it the best route for us? Why can't we measure several other bills and then compare and see which one works for us to meet our gender parity? Because when the Constitution was written, very vague, and our law is very vague, so it depends on interpretation. So I think we can do a lot more going forward to see how can we meet what our Constitution says we should have as an actual right in a way that we feel comfortable as a Kenyan people.
Okay. Senator, Kenyans read a lot of dishonest intention or lack of even intention to have this bill sailed through Parliament. In spite of the fact that yesterday we saw Raila Odinga, who is the party leader of ODM and NASA affiliate principal or co-principal in Parliament and all. And just last week we saw Wiper, we saw President Kenyatta, Raila again, talk about this. There is no honest intention in this, Senator.
Well, it's very hard to assess whether the political leadership is honest or not. I want to say that I was with Raila yesterday and Kalonzo, and I think the two of them are honest, and other political leaders who were not in Parliament yesterday are equally honest because they have traveled a long distance with this matter. They were there in 2010. They rooted for it, they supported it, they campaigned for it, and the Kenyans in a referendum supported it and approved it. So in terms of honesty of political leadership in the rank of Raila and Kalonzo and others of similar stature, I want to say that they are as honest as is possible. When we come back to Parliament, we look at the National Assembly. I've lately been going to the gym, so I interact with quite a number of members of the National Assembly. I do not think that all of them or a sizable number are supporting this bill. If you drill down to the actual attendance in Parliament, you will find that even among the lady legislators, they were not 100% in attendance. If you drill down to their male counterparts, they were not in attendance. The general whisper there is politics is about power, and if you implement this piece of legislation pursuant to what the Constitution decrees, then you might tilt the power balance, you might increase competition in future. So this is a decision that is not very easy for Parliament by itself to make. I think, in my view, it is a decision that the public out there should be able to make for parliamentarians. The Senate, I interact with quite a number of senators. In a Senate, the dynamics are a little different. The competition is not as vicious as it is in the National Assembly, and the senators are likely to pass it. But there is a need for the same piece of legislation to be passed by the National Assembly and the Senate so that it is made into law when it is assented to. Okay. Again, if you look at the public out there, this bill has come at a wrong time. There is cynicism, there is skepticism about politicians. The public out there do not think the politicians are their best representatives. Politicians are a very expensive lot. They cost a lot to the public. They do things that favor them. They do not do things that generally favor the public. So if you are telling the public that you want to comply with the Constitution by introducing additional members against the background of a bloated wage bill, the public is not supportive. That's what you are seeing in Kirinyaga. That's what you are seeing in other places. Yes. I had occasion to talk to two ladies, and they were asking me in the presence of my wife that you fellas want to bring more women to Parliament. And I told them that for me, I'll vote in favor of the bill. I think it's a good thing. I'm a parent of girls. I'm a husband. I'm a son of a woman and all that, so I'm supportive. But they said, you are going to introduce your girlfriends. You are going to introduce people that serve your interests.
So that's the same thinking outside even Parliament.
So the public, yes, the public are the people who want to be the ones responsible for bringing people to parliament. They do not want to leave it to anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, so
All right.
we are in a very difficult situation that requires prayers, that requires excellent leadership.
Legislation.
And
church elders.
And church elders.
No,
All right, but I have a feeling from what you're saying is parliamentarians feel this is an exclusive club. They don't want any more people in there, sort of.
That aspect is true, and the public is also skeptical about how people will get into parliament.
Yes.
And when those people get into parliament, not through their votes, who they will represent and what sort of people they will be.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you about the honest intention once more. You think there's honest intention to get this bill through parliament?
I would agree with Senator that, you know, we do not have an intentionometer so that we are able to decipher who has the best intention.
Let me help you give you the intention-meter. Yeah. Let me give you, just go back a month and a half or 2 months ago, the finance bill 2018. Did you see the kind of whipping they did? They went to State House. They were whipped. ODM was categorical. They even de-whipped members who did not toe the line. We've not seen the kind of vigor with this bill. So that's the intention.
No, I concur that that vigor has not been demonstrated in this instance by almost all sides. But I bet it is because there hasn't been a very clear understanding of how we are going to achieve this. You know, we must assess this bill post it's being passed in Parliament. So then we have these numbers of extra ladies who need to be nominated to Parliament. What happens? And that's why you see the negativity. Beyond just being, you know, that politicians are believed to be taking in all the money, chasing per diems around the world, doing all those other things. The electorate is trying to vet the nominated female kind in various positions, be it MCAs or Parliament. And most of them that have been nominated have ended up being either daughters of the party honchos or, you know, or nieces or girlfriends of the political class or those kind of things. So they are saying, is there going to be quality? But again, as George says, Ken, you want to imagine that you ran for a parliamentary seat against a very strong female contender. This is how politicians reason. Then for some reason, to try and pacify that constituency or area, you do what has been done to Cecily Mbarire.
Nominate.
You nominate her to Parliament. It becomes worse if the politician in Parliament may have been a little weaker or gotten into Parliament just by a whisker. If you do that, the politicians are going to resist because they are saying, you want to bring competition to us. That is the political problem at that point. At the lower level, the voter is asking. We have seen how nominations of, say, MCAs are done in Nairobi. We can decide and tell you this and this and this and this are mere girlfriends and do not add value and have not spoken in Parliament. And we want to leave this critical decision to the chairman of the parties at the various levels, be it the county level or national level, and then the secretary generals and things like that. If we leave this decision in their opinion as voters, the trend that has been ensuing will just continue. It will be carried over. Now, that begs the question, as I asked earlier, what are the attendant laws or bills that are going to be used to fortify this bill? How are we able to end up with quality leaders of the female kind who will be a wonderful example and epitomize the genuineness in all women in this country to show and exude leadership?
All right.
If we, until and unless we are able to do that, to tell the voter and explain to them who these are going to be, we are going to have a problem. And finally, there has been a massive disconnect in even explaining this bill. We do not know up to now which is which. While in the weekend I went to see the original owner of the affirmative action bill in the country, Honorable Phoebe Asio. She was the first lady to put the affirmative action bill to Parliament. And while there, I met Ivo Barra, the MP for Kabondo Kasipul, who explained that what the number of women they are asking for is not those big numbers. It's not aggregated from the 349, rather the 290 elective positions. The 290 elective positions, a third of them would therefore mean about 116.
Yes.
But of this 116, she explains, they first deduct the 49 women reps because that was part of the affirmative action. That was her explanation. And then they again deduct the number of the nominated and the nominated women in Senate. So in her explanation, therefore, the only loophole is in about 21 extra lady leaders.
Okay.
But how many people, what are the versions we have? There isn't even a proper version of what gap there exists in achieving this balance of the 2/3 gender rule. So those things, all of them put together, would explain why you'd see a level of malaise among the political leadership.
Okay.
Because even them,
don't understand
they may not be able to get it very well, what it is.
All right. I'll give you the final word on this, Nerima, unless Senator has something on the gender bill.
Every time we have this conversation, I always wonder why when it comes to the criteria of selecting women, it is always very high standards. When we even look at, we can talk about our cabinet secretaries, a lot of them have PhDs or doctorates, and we have some who are not quite sure whether they even stepped into a university. But it is not that sort of conversation that we're having. So I think it's great that we do have a criteria set forth where we want the best leaders to represent us. But I think it should be something across the board.
Yes.
Yeah, not just with women. And that is my contention with the word slay queen. Because we have enough slay kings in our parliament. And they say nothing. They do nothing. But they are never highlighted. In fact, we completely ignore their existence. But all of a sudden, when a woman does the same thing, it's up here.
Talk of town. The talk of town. Right.
You know, when it comes to issues of nomination, how you get to Parliament, say National Assembly or the Senate, when you get nominated, it's affirmative action, it's a favor. So when you get that privilege, I think the standards have to be high. The standards have to be high. But when you are seeking election, I mean, the responsibility and the risks are spread among the electorate. If they are an electorate who love jingoistic people, violent people, or vulgar people, that's upon them. You get the leadership you deserve because you vote for them. That is why in Parliament you will get different characters in Parliament, but that is the nature of our difference. It's the diversity that we have. Some people just get elected for bashing a particular community, for being abusive to women and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I think we have a long way to go to get the finees in terms of returns when we are doing elections.
Okay.
But for nomination, the standards have to be higher. Because we are aspiring for ideals. Actually, nomination and the gender equality issue is an ideal that we must strive to achieve, and we only achieve it through nominating our very best, which unfortunately has not been the practice.
Has not been. But does that answer your question? Does he answer your question on the conversation?
He said exactly what I've said.
Yes.
The individual I'm talking about was nominated,
yes,
but without any form of really formal education. But he's a man.
Yes.
But the women...
That one in a cabinet,
yes,
perhaps.
We're not mentioning any names here.
Even in a cabinet, we need to have the face of Kenya, the qualification of Kenya, the behavior of Kenyans, and everybody should be
I agree with the
represented
Senator. There needs to be a higher threshold when it comes to nomination, because then you have a longer time to even vet.
Yeah, but that's not across the board.
It's not across the board, but we need to. We need to. I think that's a good conversation.
Can the discussion on threshold and academia as part of that is a good one to have. I speak as a quite educated person, about 3 degrees, but who understands that sometimes education is not everything, and that there are people who are highly educated, but will do what a very uneducated person would not do. And so we need to reach out for characters and values first. Yes, there is a need for us to get people who are educated and who become good examples for our young ones to know that there is a level education can take you to. But it must not be the first thing as an assessment to leadership.
Okay.
Education can only follow what is good behavior, what is, integrity, and upholding the values that define our country and that would show each electorate what kind of a country we want to have.
Okay.
That said, let us not diminish the role of education, because I don't want someone going to say, as I've met young people, when I go to give motivational talks, they say, oh, Bill Gates did not finish school, or Zuckerberg did not clear school, and so they intentionally decide not to go through school. That is absolute nonsense.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we need to change the topic of discussion, because we're not debating the gender bill. We're just looking at what's happening going forward. And the other discussion, and I'll begin with Senator, you voted for the Ruraka report, right?
Yes, I did.
Yes. And,
with pleasure and glee.
Yes. Unfortunately, we didn't see a lot of the people who are present at the Senate supporting this. What is the reason?
Again, when a motion of that nature comes to Parliament, the issue of power politics is at play. We represent various dynamics in both Senate and the National Assembly, and we are lobbied differently. For instance, the names of the fellas that were there, you may find that ordinarily they fraternize with certain members of the Senate in terms of the community they come from or parties of affiliation. So this, in its very nature, in reality, may cause somebody to either abdicate or abstain or disappear for convenience. But what I noticed that it was the side of government that was deliberately absent.
Yes, apart from Sakaja.
Apart from Sakaja, yes, who voted.
Even Gideon Moi voted against it.
Yes, yes. Who voted together with those who were supporting the Committee of Public Accounts and Investments. As a person, if you ask me, and those of us who voted, there are certain values that drive us. We have a certain inclination, and we represent counties. I represent a county where the issue of governance is on top of the agenda. There are complaints about things that are going on, and if such a matter was to come to vote before the Senate, it would be absurd or ridiculous for me to abstain or disappear when issues corruption are being discussed in the Senate. So I had to stand my ground.
And you did?
There were people who lobbied me not to stand my ground, but my ground is firmly pro good governance and anti-corruption.
So you think they did a good job? Moses Kajong did a good job with that?
It was a good job.
Yes.
When you talk against corruption and you have an opportunity to demonstrate that you can walk the talk, you should be able to walk the talk. As a Senate, we are compelled to demonstrate to Kenyans that we are committed to fighting against corruption.
Okay.
And we keep on complaining about ESEC. We are complaining about DCI. Right now, we are discussing about some 2 CID officers who helped and some people escape from custody after taking money. We do not have the moral authority to talk about them if ourselves, we cannot stand and be counted on matters corruption.
Okay.
So even if we are not the judges, we are not the prosecutors, and we are not the jury, but when we must make a statement as a Senate, we make it, and we know we are fallible. If, for instance, those who are mentioned in those reports think that a good job was not done, they should have recourse in court.
Yes.
But for me, I've discharged my obligation. I've stood firm on this, and I may be wrong, but I must demonstrate that I can walk the talk.
As politicians always say, my conscience is clear. Nerima, I'm very intrigued by the statement that it was deliberate to disappear, not to attend, because they didn't want to take a vote to be seen on what side. Because at the end of the day, media iliwamulika. These are the guys who voted against, who voted for it, right? So it would have been really bad to see some names on either side, whatever side they were going to vote. So when he says it's very deliberate, does it bother you?
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with Senator in terms when he says it was time for him to walk the talk. Because our president has been talking furiously about how he wants to fight corruption and pushing for even those who have been elected to fight corruption. And I think one of the tools that the Constitution gives us is supposed to be access to our leaders. So when the media shares that information, it's the voters who are supposed to get upset with their leaders and follow up with them. And even though we have replicated some parts of the American Constitution and it has developed over 200 years, something that they do have access to is with such information, an ordinary citizen can call up their governor, can call up their senator, and actually push for a petition against them and be upset and have people rally behind why they made this particular decision. I think that we need to be realistic with ourselves. We always question whether there's goodwill. We always wonder, is something going to happen? Is something going to be done? And we see all these razzmatazz of people being occasionally arrested for a few days and then we forget about the story. But we need to actually sit down and realize that there's nothing happening. It's all smoke. And there's nothing happening in front of us in terms of fighting corruption in this country, and the leaders that we have in place are not concerned of fighting corruption for the people of Kenya. And now it's time for citizens to take up the avenues that the Constitution provides to actually follow up with their leaders and hold them accountable. This is where Kenyan people need to organize. And it was interesting to see even on social media how upset people are, and even tweets from senators themselves shocked with the result.
Yes.
And so I think it was an wake-up call for
It
me.
shocked a lot of people. David,
Yeah.
were you shocked how the vote went?
You know, every time a sensitive matter is brought to Parliament or Senate, and when it involves a lot of money, you're going to end up with no-shows deliberately. I wish we could grab these people who do not show up when they ought to be executing or discharging their mandates.
And they're in the country.
And they are in the country.
And in Nairobi.
I wish we could pull the Ukrainian kind of politics on them. Grab them and put them in dustbins and suffocate them with mud. You know, Kenyans must themselves decide to be very angry about wastage, about pilferage, about graft. Until and unless our countrymen are going to see this as being about them, then even if we left it to the senators, because corruption fights back. I have known that over the years. So sometimes you will find that the people come only too close to achieving what ought to be achieved for country, but fall short. Fall short because other people deliberately decided to create a situation that renders the whole thing null and void. We are at a time when, for the first time in the history of this country, a president has decided to go for the neck of the corrupt. He started by talking and has demonstrated. I saw the CEO of NHIF. I think was he released yesterday? I'm not too sure.
Oh, yeah, on bail.
Yeah,
on
he
bail.
was remanded
On
until
bail.
yesterday, from Friday.
Yes.
Even before the judiciary can, you know, do its deed, the mere fact that we can see parastatal heads of that stature thrown into remand, arrested, is good enough encouragement. It's not the best, but it's good enough encouragement and show for the younger generation that we have to be a country that appreciates values and abhors anything that is immoral. That there is punishment for what is not right. The Ruaraka land saga, I discussed it here time upon number. And I just hope we finally get to know what really happened.
Okay. I know they're back in court, either late this month, late December, or early next year.
So I thank my senator, because
Yes.
as my leader who I voted for, I would cut his neck if he had not kept his end of the bargain.
You know, Senator, the Senate has been hailed as doing a better job than the National Assembly. And from the top of my mind, I remember the report that was done by Mutula Kilonzo. it will be used in the years to come to show an example of what a good job the Senate can do. Were you disappointed with this?
I was extremely disappointed. I was taken aback by the behavior of the government side. But I think now the climb is steeper for us if we are to redeem our image. As an institution, we need to redeem our image. We need to account to the public for the powers that they have given us and for additional powers that we request from them. We need to justify the earnings that the public give us and actually be grateful to them for the privilege that they allow us to have to be referred to as honorable. So I was deeply disappointed that after such, investigations, deliberations, when the matter came for vote, I was seeing colleagues walking out and pretending to be having urgent matters, only to reappear later when the heat had gone down. Now, the people who may make us disappear or pussyfoot as it is are our leaders. The Jubilee leader and the national leader is Uhuru Kenyatta. He's taken a stand. The NASA leader is Raila Odinga. He's taken a stand. I do not know what was influencing these senators, and I do not know what they were afraid of. In fact, leadership is about courage to make, serious decisions in moments of crisis. And there was nothing intimidating us. There was nobody holding a gun on our head. I think some people are too weak or too cowardly, too cowardly to stand firm on the face of serious decisions when such decisions are to be made.
Okay. Now, I think we have concluded on that matter. Unless any of you have something to say about this, I need to go to the next topic because I see Cecily Mbarire is already up and speaking somewhere, so we might be told to take her as she speaks. But I want to go to the other topic, unless you have something to do with this, because it's already gone through Senate. When is it supposed to come back? Can they reintroduce it? What happened?
Well, only after 6 months.
Okay.
But from the look of things, this is not the end of this matter.
Okay.
Senate, as an organization, was supposed to express itself very clearly on matters corruption and matters Ruaraka.
All right.
But I believe other institutions like ESEC, like DCI, like the presidency, the attorney general, and the courts will do their bit of job.
All right.
But we have lost an opportunity as a Senate to stand tall and say
and
we are fighting.
This would have also been defining for the Senate. All right, Cecily speaking. I'd like to discuss about the medical list equipment. Let's just briefly hear what she has to say, because they're meeting with the senators and I think the members of Parliament Health Committee. Then we can come back and conclude our discussion.
Without suffering financial hardship, but also access across the country. It is therefore intended we will be, as the end game, be having an expansion of the population that is covered with essential health services. It is also the intention of this journey that we'll be working for us to strengthen and broaden the primary healthcare system. Primary healthcare has been noted as the approach that we'll be pursuing has the highest return on investment. For 1 shilling invested, there is a 10-fold return if we focus ourselves on a primary healthcare approach, which details we'll be delving into later. We also intend, in terms of health system strengthening, to ensure availability of requisite resources for health. As would imagine, issues of system strengthening will largely be dealt by the county governments. It has been agreed that we need to ensure availability of medical commodities and medical equipment, and here medical equipment becomes a little bit of an emotive issue. We have invested in medical equipment largely for specialized care. It is now our intention to focus in terms of availing medical equipment at the primary healthcare level, basic equipment. We'll also leverage on technology as we move forward to scale. We'll also be leveraging on public-private partnerships as we move UHC to scale. But we'll also be focusing on strengthening leadership and governance across the two levels. Allow me again to reiterate, and for the ones who are coming in for the first time, to lay emphasis on why a phased approach, starting with pilot, and why the selection of the 4 counties. One, for Machakos, there is recorded the highest rate of trauma cases as a result of road traffic accidents, particularly along the Mombasa-Nairobi highway. For Isiolo, with its sparse population density, there is also recorded high maternal mortality rate, but also peculiar health-seeking behavior because of the pastoralist nature of the population in Isiolo. Kisumu records the highest burden of communicable diseases, including malaria, HIV, and tuberculosis. Nyeri finally records the highest incidence of non-communicable conditions, including diabetes.
All right, now that the CS is speaking about universal healthcare, let's just briefly we'll have about 4 minutes to talk about this. Last week, Wednesday, when Senate raised questions describing the scandal that is now, they're talking about the leasing of medical equipment as of monumental proportion, and they also ordered the health CS, who we can see on the screen, to appear before the House panel to shed light on the status of the equipment and the anger that the senators exhibited with this. Now, it was a deal that was cut in 2015. We saw State House give equipment, but even at that time, the governors were resisting the move to accept this equipment. In fact, there were some who accepted, some didn't accept. It was a huge debate, Senator.
This is a very serious matter. This is a matter that is shrouded with mysteries. This is a matter that has the potential of being bigger than Goldenberg, bigger than any other scandal that you know. The initial arrangement was that the leasing would cost about 90 billion. Right now, it has been increased to about 200 billion. How it has grown to 200 billion is a matter of mystery, and it's something that you can guess, because I do not see anything that you enter into changing from what it is and doubling over 100%. Now, if you look at the processes that were undertaken, you know, to legitimize or legalize this thing, there are so many unassigned documents. There are so many things that are not right. For instance, if you come to the county that I represent, Migori, the equipment was just received recently. The county has been releasing money, or money is belonging to the county, about 200 million annually, has been collected and remitted to the lessor, the person who signed this lease. The equipment has not been useful to the people of Migori. Secondly, if you look at personnel on the ground, people who are supposed to use this equipment, there is no personnel, there are no technical people who know how to use it, so there is no value for money in it. And lastly, you will find that we are yet to find a single assembly, county assembly, that was involved in this process. So this is something that was done in a very opaque manner, something that was done that Kenyans should be told how it was done, and then we should actually know the numbers that these equipment ought to have impacted in terms of cost on us. Because what we are being asked to pay does not make sense. Again, if you look at the 47 counties, you will find that in certain counties, more than 4 equipment were given. There are counties with more than 4 facilities. other counties have a single facility.
Okay.
And those other counties with a single facility are being asked to pay the same amount as the others. And these are things that perpetuate poverty, perpetuate imbalance, and it's a complete mysterious activity on the part of the executive. I think the committee that is looking at it should be able to come up with something that I would have the confidence of telling my people in Migori that this is what it means.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, actually we are out of time. Unless you want to talk about this, because I think it's in his place to talk about this, unless you really have to talk about it. But you have 30 seconds, then we have to end this. We're time out. Just on conclusion, you don't have to speak about the medical equipment.
No. I think we have to, because universal health care or health cover is one of the big 4 agenda that President Kenyatta wants to leave behind. I bet it is the reason why, for example, NHIF has had a crackdown, because you need to clean it so that every Kenyan can be able to access or be covered and access good, health care whenever they go to a hospital at the lowest level. However, I have not interacted quite intensely with the documentation around this. What I know is that when Kenya Medical Pharmacists and Dentists Union had a strike the last time, they said that part of their problem was with the leasing of this equipment, which have been lying in various places without utility or utilization. Now, that then, as they are lying there gathering dust, we are paying off for them. There needs to be an overall assessment, a need assessment of what we need, what we do not need, and what therefore we need to spend. And because I know or believe that President Kenyatta is himself saying that he wants to fight graft, it would be meaningless to lose 100 billion shillings. That is capable of building almost 7 hospitals, the equivalent of Kenyatta Hospital, and equipping them fully. So I hope we do not end up with a situation like KU, which built a full hospital, equipped it, and 2 years down the line, no one is working, equipment are being paid for, it's a waste.
Nerima, finally.
Yeah, I think it's very sad, because we need to take our healthcare seriously and to see that people's self-interest is actually causing people's lives, because most people who are in hospitals are children with their mothers or pregnant women, and many of them are young. And so for us to say that the future of our country, we do not care about them, we care more about our selfish interests, is a sad moment to hear that from Senator.
Senator, thank you very much. Unless you have something to talk about the medical equipment, I know this is a debate that can't finish today. We have to begin it today, but we'll continue speaking about it. Thank you very much, Senator Chilayako, for coming and speaking to us. And this is your first TV interview since your election. Thank you, and we'll be calling you back. We have a lot of shows that we need your input. Nerima Wako from Siasa Place, thank you very much. And my friend David Usianya, as always, thank you. It's a pleasure. And straight after this, NTV Siasa is on air in about 4 or 5 minutes, and Nuru Abdulaziz is here. Got your name today.
After how many months?
No, it's 3 days, Nuru. All right, what do you have for us?
Yeah, leo katika NTV sasa tunaangalia nafasi ya mwanamke katika idara ya polisi. Natumai unaelewa.
Hiyo naelewa.
Okay. Yeah, tunaangalia nafasi ya mwanamke, amepewa fursa gani, labda kama kuna changamoto ambazo wanapitia. Ni baadhi tu ya mambo ambayo tutaangazia nami na Jen Ngoiri katika NTV sasa baada ya muda usiokuwa mrefu.
All right. Shukran sana. Obviously naelewa. Asante, and thank you for watching NTV Today. And Nuru Abdulaziz and Jen Ngoiri are up in about 5 or so minutes, so stay here. Have a good morning. I'll see you at 1 o'clock with Sean Cadavelis on Sports.